And that's one of the reasons I started our Funeral Women Lead Foundation, because we know that women are struggling in our profession, especially in areas of the work-life balance, because our schedules are a little crazy sometimes. Both of you know this, being ministers. It's not a 9 to 5 job. And so you will have nights on call. Sometimes you don't get any sleep and you're up the next morning, you're serving a family, you're taking a funeral out, and then you start all over again.
We all are gonna die. 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 Why don't we help each other prepare for it? Without death there could not be life. I'm talking about end of life conversations, conversations about the end of life. Death and dying, grief and loss, conversations about the end of life.
Hey, everybody, we want to interrupt this episode to ask for some help.
Yes, indeed. We would like to add value to our podcast for you, our beloved community, as we move into our third
How
year
cool is
of
that?
being here.
30 years. Yeah.
3
We're
years.
just starting our third year. We're very excited about that. So we really do. We want to add some value. And we'd love to have as many as possible of you go to our podcast notes and click on the link to take just a few minutes to do a survey for us and tell us what would make it more valuable for you. So we look
Yeah,
forward to hearing from you.
and don't hesitate. Whatever is on your heart, there's a little space there that you can add your thoughts about what you'd like to hear more about. Maybe, even if it's books or music, whatever, just
Yeah.
let us know, because we are here to in support of you,
Yeah.
our listeners. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Thank you. Welcome once again, to everybody, to this episode of End of Life Conversations. Today we are speaking with Lisa Baue. Lisa is a third-generation funeral director and former owner who has worked in the death care and funeral profession since 1979. For 38 years, she was the president and CEO of Baue Funeral Homes, Crematory and Cemetery in St. Charles, Missouri. She transformed it into one of the leading firms in the Midwest. Once she retired from ownership, she founded Your Funeral Coach in 2021 to provide consulting services to individuals and their businesses, assisting them with growth initiatives.
Yes, and I am the Reverend Mother Annalouiza, and I'm so delighted to talk about Lisa. One of the other items that she has been working through are coaching. She's become passionate about advocating for women as leaders. And in 2024, she founded the Funeral Women Lead Foundation, the first nonprofit organization dedicated solely to advancing and advocating for women as leaders in her profession. She published her first book, Wake Up Calls, in September 2025. We'll be including a link to that in the podcast notes. And since this won't be aired until 2026, we'll be sure to put it in our November newsletter. So thank you so much for joining us today. So glad you're here.
You're most welcome. Glad to be with both of you.
Yeah, it's really great to have someone in this profession, and we had Jess Wakefield a while back. She was awesome, and she's an amazing person. And you said you
She
are
is.
familiar with her or know her. So we'd love to,
I am.
first of all, just kind of start with when you first became aware of death in your life.
Oh goodness, that's a big question,
Yeah.
Reverend Wakil David, because I actually grew up across the street, going to school across the street from my grandparents' funeral home, and spent the night as a young child there many times as they were babysitting my brothers and I. So, as curious children will do, you wander down the stairs and probably go where you're not supposed to. But we used to play hide and seek in the casket room, and so I think as long as we were cognitively aware, we understood death at a very early age. I can't exactly pinpoint what age that was, but we were around caskets and decedents, in parlors most of our lives. Growing up, right there in the funeral home with our grandparents. So.
Yeah,
I love that.
that's kind of a unique life, right? To grow up
It is.
with that all around you. That's beautiful.
It is. My dad is as well. I mean, they moved over to St. Charles when he was about 2 years old, and they started their very first funeral home. And Daddy used to tell me stories about how they got the first air conditioning unit in the entire community, and he was so upset that my grandfather put it downstairs with the bodies and the caskets, and they had to sleep upstairs in this 2-story home, which was converted, and how hot it was. So he and his brother and little sister would take their blankets and their pillows, and they'd bring them downstairs, and they'd sleep outside the parlors,
That's great.
with all the smell of the flowers and everything else, and
Yeah.
because it was cooler down there. So we all just grew up with death being kind of very normal,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
in our
Right.
family, because
That's
we were
wonderful.
just around it, all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really love that because it just shows that it's not weird and ghostly and macabre. It's
Yeah.
like it's just what happens, right?
Mhm.
It
So
is.
you have a foundation around the death industry, and that really has, you could tell because you're very comfortable. But how has death impacted the story of who you are today?
Well, that's also a very interesting question. I think that it drives you to really, it's a caregiving profession, so it
Hmm.
causes you to feel in your everything you do about giving back to
Mhm.
those in your community, those who mourn, and those in our profession. So we come from a very caregiving place in my family, and
Hmm.
in most who choose funeral service as a profession. We believe in comforting others and taking care of others. Now, how does it also impact you personally? Sometimes we care more for others than we do ourselves. So we
Yeah,
don't take a great we're not
Uh-huh.
really great at taking care of ourselves because we're so busy caring for others.
yeah,
Hmm.
And that's one of the reasons I started our Funeral Women Lead Foundation, because we know that women are struggling in our profession,
mhm,
especially in areas of the work-life balance, because our schedules are a little crazy sometimes.
Hmm.
Both of you know this, being ministers.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's not a 9 to 5 job. And so
yeah,
you will have nights on call. Sometimes you don't get any sleep and you're up the next morning, you're serving a family, you're taking a funeral out, and then you start all
Hmm.
over again. And so you could
mhm,
go for, anywhere from 5 to 7 nights where you just don't get a whole lot of sleep.
yeah,
And that's one of the reasons we started the foundation. In fact, we have our very first wellness program coming.
Huh.
It'll be gone by the time this podcast comes out, but it's this coming November. We'll have
mhm.
one every year for women in the profession to learn how to
Mm.
better take care of themselves
Hmm.
in
That's
areas
great.
of physical, mental, and professional wellness as
Huh.
well
Great,
as they grow
yeah.
themselves as
Hmm.
leaders.
Well,
Might I
Yeah.
add spiritual care too? As
yeah,
a
Yes.
spiritual
Did I not
director,
say spiritual? There's
no.
yeah,
spiritual in there. There's
yeah,
spiritual, physical,
Hmm.
emotional, mental,
Yes.
mhm,
and professional. Thank you. There's 4. You're
Yeah.
yeah,
absolutely right.
yeah,
We are
yeah,
going to talk about the spiritual side.
Hmm.
Not everyone comes from a strong faith-based
yeah,
background,
yeah,
but they still, many of these young women coming into our profession have a lot of spirituality, and we
That's
want to
right.
mhm,
help them find that as a way to ground themselves,
Hmm.
especially as they struggle with the stressors that are
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah,
abundant, in our
Uh-huh.
profession, as
Uh-huh.
as I've
yeah,
just shared.
yeah.
So,
There's
yeah.
so that's so important, and
Hmm.
we, as interfaith ministers, we also call ourselves interfaith or no faith companions. That we work with
Right.
people,
Hmm.
because people, whatever they find divine, whether it's the woods or the, physics or stars or whatever, it's
That's
all the
right.
same thing, and we're all talking about
Hmm.
the same thing, and we all have that inside of us in one way or the other. And tell us more about your own work, what you're doing, this new project of working with. You have your own podcast, you said, for women in
I
a.
do, I do. So actually, Funeral Women Lead, the foundation,
Okay.
we started a podcast with 3 other women. 2 of them are on our board, and another woman who's soon to become, in the next couple of years, the very first woman president of the National Funeral Directors Association, which is the
Hmm.
largest international organization
Mm,
serving our profession in the world. And so the 4 of us came up with this great little name. Well, actually, it was one of the girls who said, "Hey, how about 4 women in a funeral?" And all of us being funeral directors were like, "Yeah, that would be great."
That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
I
so we
love
talk
that.
about everything women, everything funeral service, just basically a
Huh.
lot about our own personal stories. At the
yeah.
Hmm.
same time, we share, I think, the wisdom of the ages in some respects, because all 4 of us have different backgrounds and stories. Some are very similar, where we lost our parents at very young ages.
Mm,
I lost my father at he was 53, I was 30 when
mm,
I took over the family business.
Hmm.
wow.
And another one of our podcast members is also Ellen McBrayer, Same situation. She was in college when her dad died, and she headed off to mortuary school and came into the family business and is now working with her mother as the CEO and the owner.
Mm.
So losing a parent having a parent die at a very young age has a great deal of impact when you're in the death care field,
Absolutely.
because sometimes we experience grief. We're around grief all the time, but we've never really experienced it ourselves on that
Yeah.
personal of a level.
Yeah.
Another one of our podcasters is also had her mother die at a very young age too, and she took over her family business. So
Mm.
it's impactful in ways that drive us to become leaders in our future, but it
Yeah.
also has some challenges to it because it sets us back a little bit. Is at the
Mhm.
same time you're a daughter, you're mourning,
Yeah.
and you're serving in the funeral profession. And so how you deal with all those stressors, along with the work-life balance, along with being around grief and loss during your everyday life is something else that we struggle with. So we
Yeah.
talk about that. We've got a podcast coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about what do we do when we were moms, and
Mm.
what do you do with the babies? And there's
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of young single women out there that are in our profession. Some of them are raising children and helping them with some of their struggles and what to do with, single mom working in a not a
Right.
9 to 5 business
Right.
and trying to maintain your sanity sometimes, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
these are things that we talk about, and there's no topic that I think we won't talk about. So we're on our 4th podcast
Yay.
coming up soon.
Great. Excellent.
And
That's
we're
such
going
a
to talk
good.
about grief in the holidays, because the
Yeah.
holidays can
That's
be
a
a
big
really
one.
tough time. It's a
Yeah.
big one.
Big
Yeah.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's really interesting. And it's interesting too, the way that these kind of synchronicities happen, if you will. We were working together for many years, and I started a class on planning for end of life and et cetera. And then last year, my wife had a diagnosis. It's a terminal diagnosis. And so I'm living the things I've been talking about for so many years, right?
Oh my
and
gosh.
and she's doing very well right now, but just
Yeah.
it's been a really kind of like what you're talking about, kind of a, now it's mine to live,
Right. Right.
and so it makes a difference, and it helps. In a way, it helps because I can also, as I'm doing counseling or work with people, I can really kind of empathize better maybe than I could. So
You bring up a very good point. I think and I was a young funeral director, and I had a grandparent or two die
mhm.
during those early years before my dad died. And I had been licensed for 8 years. And until I actually experienced, I think, a really difficult death, Reverend Wakil David, I did not understand, I think, some of the real pain that you go through
Yeah,
during times of grief and loss and mourning, and why it's so important that we go through those processes of having the mourning, um, and having a funeral and having a life honoring event that
yeah,
helps us heal. And that's one of the things I think funeral service is struggling with right now, with families who are pushing away from death, not
hmm,
Right.
necessarily the death itself, but because they're hurting so much, they
yeah,
don't understand that the part of learning to mourn correctly is spending time with the decedents after they die, being there, having a service or a ceremony of some sort that helps them in the healing process. And
hmm,
and so when you go through what you're going through right now, and I'm so sorry because I know it's difficult. I had my mother die at a very, I thought, a young age. She was 72,
hmm,
and she was unfortunately a lifetime smoker, and just her way of death and under hospice care was so hard
yeah,
to watch her go through that, and you as well, because you pre-mourn. You start
hmm,
pre-mourning
yeah,
that death,
absolutely,
which can also challenge you,
hmm,
especially at the same time you're over here serving families and you're
yeah,
caring for families. But you do start to empathize even more once I
yeah,
think you walk in those shoes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to say anything else,
Um,
Wakil?
just the other piece of that, I think, is really kind of become. I mean, our mission to begin with was to destigmatize this conversation, right? But we're
Mhm.
also
Mhm.
learning about through these things. the stigma that's around the idea of grief, or as you're talking about, around the idea of mourning or ritual, the idea of hospice, even, the idea if you go into hospice, you're giving up,
Right.
or if you, this whole way of speaking about cancer is like, you've lost if you failed if you don't win the fight against cancer. We just really want to change that dialogue. So that's really kind of part of all of our work, I think, is to just make sure people are comfortable and understand that you can get wonderful care in hospice. You should do it as soon as possible.
Oh, you
And
can. And the
yeah.
hospice chaplains are amazing. The nurses are amazing.
Yeah,
One of my
angels.
closest friends, they are angels, owns her own hospice company back in Missouri, and she and I kind of grew up together. Both her doing the home health care and hospice side, and my mom was her very first patient when she
Wow.
started her non-for-profit hospice. I learned so much about the hospice care during that time. And I'd be on the phone with her every other day going, is this normal? Is this right? I need you to go talk to my mom because she's not listening to me, and I can't tell you the care that we received, how much that meant.
Yeah,
I
so
would
incredible.
highly embrace anyone who is facing this to consider hospice as soon as they can. I totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, very important.
And also, I'm going to put a little plug in for funeral service. Consider pre-planning. And the reason I want to say that is because I know how valuable it was. When my dad died, I'll never forget, back in 1987, sitting there with him the week before he died, and we were working a funeral together, and we were sitting sitting someplace afterwards, and I said, Dad, have you planned your funeral? Because we have a whole pre-planning side of our business, right? And we've been helping families pre-plan since the 1960s, and this is 1987. And I'm like, he goes, oh, you kids will know what to do. Your mom knows what I want. And I'm like, really? Are you kidding me, Dad? We're funeral directors. We help families pre-plan. We believe in the value of it. And yet you're telling us we'll know what to do. He goes, when you get back from this trip, we're going to sit down and plan your funeral. Well, he didn't get back.
Oh,
It was
wow.
that trip when he died.
Oh my.
So so he's in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's in my book, Wake Up Calls. I just show a little picture because I love my cover. This is me sitting on an oak, underneath an oak tree at our cemetery, overlooking the lake, right? So this is where I go for peace and quiet and places to contemplate. But it seriously was a shock.
Yeah.
Dad dies very young at a heart attack, not knowing he was going to go. And so what do? So you try to figure it out on the fly. Now here we are. I'm a funeral director. My mom is licensed but never worked in it. My brother is a funeral director. My husband is a funeral director. We're all sitting around going, we don't know what to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's not a good place to be.
Yeah.
I would like to encourage people, though, to get their family involved, because sometimes we say things like, oh, I don't want a funeral, just cremate me or scatter me or bury me. But it's the funeral process itself. You both have been in the church setting. It's the ceremony that gives you the healing. It helps you start off on the right foot. Dr. Alan Wolfelt, who's a world-renowned thanatologist, is one of my good friends. And if you haven't read any of these books, they're just amazing. But he talks about the value of mourning. And he also discusses why mourning is helpful, not hurtful, and how it helps you heal. And without going through the processes, let your family have decisions. If they want to see you after you die, let them.
Yeah.
Mel Robbins wrote this great book called Let Them. So I just recently read it, and I come back to this. It's like, if your family wants to have flowers, let them.
Yeah.
If they want to have music, right? If they want to see you and spend time with your body, allow them to have that opportunity, because you're gone. You're in a better place. We know that. Our faith tells us we're going to be in a better place. And hopefully all of us believe that, but I do. And it's more important how they live without us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And allow them to have that mourning process. I just think that's so extremely important.
I heard somebody else recently say, you're not going to be there, so why do you care about what happens?
Right.
You should really, you should really be aware. Well, even if you do, and you should absolutely have agency and say what you want to have
Mhm.
happen.
Mhm.
But
Sure.
on the other hand, you should be open to the fact that your family may make a different decision,
Mhm.
and they're the ones who are carrying on and are dealing with it. So that's a really good
That's right.
point. Very
They
important thing
are,
to
and I
have.
can't tell you how many families I have served over the years where their loved ones have made decisions in advance, and they've
Hmm.
come in and they say,
Mhm.
"I
Nope.
wanna follow mom or dad's wishes, but I feel so guilty because I need this.
Yeah.
Right.
I need to see them. I need to have a funeral." And
Yeah.
Right.
some people today, consumer choices are saying, "I don't like funerals." Well,
Yeah.
I don't you don't have to call it a funeral. You can call it a
Right.
celebration of life, a
Right.
life-honoring event, call it a gathering, whatever you'd like to call it
Mhm.
as a name.
Yeah.
Allow your survivors to have something you have I mean, think about it for a second. We've lived all of our lives and we have had wonderful experiences, and it's those experiences that they want to share
Yeah.
with their friends and family who are there. They
Hmm.
Right.
need that comfort and healing. They need somebody to come up and give at an event where they can give you a hug. That felt
Yeah.
so good. I mean, my little brother and I had our other brother die in California last year, and we couldn't bring him back right away because it was an unattended death. But we went ahead and had a funeral without his presence
Mm.
Mhm.
because we needed the comfort of the
Mhm.
community and our friends and family around us to give us their sympathies. We
Yeah.
needed
Mhm.
to mourn him. And we
Mhm.
celebrated and mourned his life in a very special way within about 3 weeks of his death.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then when we finally were able to bring him back home, it was around Christmas time where we had a final burial for him at our family lot, and that meant
Mm.
we had another service, a little ceremony there outside at the graveside, and then we
Mhm.
all helped fill in his grave,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
very ceremonial, very
Mhm.
participatory.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Those are
Yeah.
the kind of things that your family, your survivors will need to have.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm gonna jump in because, whew,
Whew!
I'm gonna jump in. There's a lot of things I want to go back to though. So
Yes.
one is that our listeners are multi-faith. So
Yay!
I want to just
That's good.
acknowledge that, some folks don't have an idea of what happens after their loved one dies and will be supported through their grief process regardless of
Yeah.
faith.
Yes.
Two, it doesn't have to be a church.
Nope.
It doesn't have to be any kind, like, I love the idea. And we interviewed somebody who really helped people who are not faith folks to find a place. Like,
Hmm.
literally, we had somebody who hosted a celebration of life at a hotel with
Yeah.
a, like, champagne bubbler, right?
Oh, sure.
Because her mom was not a faith person, but was
Right.
a delightful, sounded just
It
great,
sounded fun.
funny
Yeah.
person. Yeah, I was like, I would
Yeah.
have gone to that one. So just to encourage people, like, we can plan, and mom and dad may say what they want, and you could do what they want, and then, time later, go find, a really wonderful and safe place
Hmm.
Right.
to
Right.
do all the things that are important to you. Also, the pre-planning piece, I know that
Yes.
pre-planning, I mean, Wakil and I do a lot of the advanced care directive planning and try to get people to make the choices ahead of time.
Mhm.
And, it is kind of a thing right now that people are wanting to be like prepay. And so,
Mm.
it's not, I want to say some families can't do that. And some
Right.
families don't trust that process because
Yeah.
they've been
Totally
harmed.
understand. I totally
So,
understand.
but you can still write it down. And
Yeah.
it's not that you have to
Exactly.
ignore it. So that's what I want to just, like,
Exactly.
also throw out
There's
to the
so
listeners.
many there's so many options out there. You're absolutely right, Annalouiza. You do not have to prepay.
Hmm.
You can just write it down. Almost every funeral home organization is going to have our company in the death care field will have some kind of booklet or something to help
Hmm.
guide you.
Hmm.
Right.
There's lots of
Hmm.
guidance out there if you choose to go online and find it. But I do encourage everyone to just write their wishes down. It's kind of
Yeah.
funny. My brother was not religious at all. He was in his early years, but not faith based. So his celebration of life was not faith based. It was very spiritual. He motorcycled and biked all through the mountains of California and other close states, and he was very much of an outdoors guy. And
Hmm.
so we celebrated that, and we had his
Hmm.
motorcycle helmet there and his bicycle helmet, and we had all kinds of cool things about Mark. And every one of our songs were very uh, rock and roll and fun. They were just
Yeah.
all about Mark,
Yeah.
and it had to be because it was about his life we were honoring.
Yeah.
And the things we did were non-traditional because that's who he
That's who
was.
he was. Yeah.
And exactly. So you find your place of who you are and have that expressed
Yeah.
and
right.
and share. I can't encourage people more to just share their stories and their memories of
Yeah.
growing up and their childhood, because your children, um, I've heard my kids talk sometimes, oh yeah, mom, it was like this and it was like that. I said, no, 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 it wasn't. And it says it was like this. And so, telling people your story, your life story, and writing it down, I would encourage people to do that. I
Yeah.
think that
That's
would
right.
be a
That's
wonderful
awesome.
gift to give to your family.
Yeah.
Yep.
They.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
Definitely.
what are the biggest challenges that you find in your profession?
Mm. Well, as an owner, part of our biggest challenge was to really find great people who are passionate about what we do and to train them well. Um, it is not a profession for everyone, but it can be a wonderful profession for those who truly want to give back to families that are hurting. And so finding those people was kind of a challenge, and retaining them, especially the next generation coming up. They're searching for their place in the world, and they haven't quite found it yet. So because they have been touched by death, especially during the pandemic, we're seeing a large influx of young people coming into our
That's
profession.
right. That's right. Yay!
Yes, I know, we're super excited about it. However, they have some different needs. They're not the same as baby boomers, who have this work ethic of not 9 to 5, and we are, we'll work 40 hours plus 40 hours a week sometimes.
Yeah.
Not good for our health, by the way. And they're asking for different scheduling changes. They're asking for a different culture and environment in the workplace, which our current employers are struggling sometimes to change and adapt to, because we are a 24/7 business. You have to learn to be flexible with your shifts and your schedules. So that's been a big challenge in the profession overall, as well as changing consumer preferences with families who are doing exactly what we just talked about, sometimes not believing that there needs to be a service or a ceremony or some kind of celebration of life. And so because of that, we have all these great caregivers in our profession who want to give back and want to help people, but people don't necessarily see value in what we do.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that has been one of our biggest challenges. And I think adaptation. The world is changing so quickly.
Yeah.
Everything during the pandemic caused us to move towards things like live streaming, and to change how we do business.
Yeah.
So funeral service wasn't really operating in the 21st century when the pandemic hit, and it was a big challenge for most of the providers. So we've caught up. Most of us have caught up. There's been great companies come in and help us with all the new technology needs and things, but not all the funeral homes are quite there yet.
Yeah.
And these young people are coming in expecting all the technological things. We can do everything on an app now these days,
Right.
and there's AI that can help you write an obit. And so adapting to the change and the challenges of what's just going on in the world, I think has been a struggle. But these young people coming in are awesome, and we want to help them find their home and find their place in our profession. And that's one of the things we're doing at Funeral Women Lead, because over 75% of the women graduating over all the women graduating in mortuary schools today, 75% are women, according to the American Board of Funeral Service Education in 24.
Yeah.
So we think that number is going to continue to grow.
Yeah, we've been seeing that, and we've been seeing a lot more death doulas. And
Yes,
we talked about planning and walking you through this whole process. Death doulas have been really a big part of the kind of the growing new group of people that can help out with this and work together with funeral homes and stuff. So it's really wonderful. Go
And
ahead.
not only that, but culturally diverse too. We interviewed somebody who was like, "We're brown and we're queer." Like, move out of the way.
Yeah.
Right.
And the cool thing about women in our profession is, as I go to these different conferences and I meet with a lot of the new young people in the profession, like Jess Wakefield that you've had on your podcast, they are so open to anyone. I mean, women seem to, not that the guys aren't great, but they try. Women overall, really in our profession have been embracing each other no matter where you come from and
Yeah.
what you look like, how you're built, how you choose, make your choices in your life and who you are. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're just women together,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's so
Even
good.
if you're right, even if you're trans, even if you're, whatever you are, it doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
matters that you're in this profession and you care with your heart to serve others.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
And
beautiful.
that's
That
I love
bottom
is
that.
line.
That's a
Bottom
good.
line.
That's a great quote right there.
right there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So how do you showed us your beautiful book. I love that cover. And that's a good answer to this question perhaps, but we'd really like to always understand and help our audience understand the ways that we can resource ourselves. So in your work, how do you take care of yourself? How do you take, self-care and work-life balance you've mentioned? What do you do? What are your practices that help you stay balanced, stay centered and grounded in the work,
Ah.
especially when it gets overwhelming?
Good question. Good question. This last year, forming this new organization and the foundation at the same time my book launched, was probably not the best idea to do all at the same time.
Right.
Um, my husband and I live on this beautiful little ranch in Colorado where we have some horses and some beautiful views, and I just get back out in nature.
Hmm.
One of my balances is I have to get my hands in the dirt.
Yep.
I not, pardon the pun because I owned a cemetery too, but
Right.
I love gardening and
Mm.
and I just love wildlife. So I like to get out and do time in the great outdoors. That's really
Yeah.
important to me. I also have some horses, and I've been a horse girl since I was very young. There's a little story in my book, Wake
Hmm.
Up Calls, about the Shetland ponies and my grandfather. His vacation home was on the farm, a little
Mm.
farm that he bought because he grew up on a farm. And then they had to move to St. Louis during the Depression because they lost everything. And he wanted to go back to a farm for his vacation home.
Mm.
So he bought some acreage with a working farm, and he would just go get his hands in the dirt and get dirty. And he taught his oldest granddaughter how to do the same thing. So I was
Yeah.
out working in the garden with grandma, growing things. And then we had ponies to break, we had cows to milk, we had pigs to feed, we had, oh gosh, eggs to fetch from the chicken coop. And so I kind of grew up the old fashioned way in learning how a working farm really operates, and that's where you
Mhm.
get your food and your nutrition from.
Yeah.
And you
That
get your
also
hands dirty
teaches
too.
that also teaches us about death as well, because
It does.
you have to harvest those animals and those plants
You
for that
do.
matter. And
Absolutely you do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's
You
another
do.
good teacher for
Right.
folks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we like to finish up our conversation with offering you an opportunity to ask, to say what we might have wanted to ask you.
Yeah. What
What we have
didn't
asked
we
you?
ask you? Yeah.
What didn't
What
we ask
didn't
you?
you ask? Well, oh gosh, there's well, it's all in the book. If you want to learn anything about my life and what I believe in and how a funeral home company needs to run and take care of
Mhm.
their employees. I think that my biggest wake up call was when I realized I wasn't a good boss.
Mm.
I wasn't a good leader. I mean, I
Huh.
grew up in a very German family with a good work ethic, but I didn't know how to manage people.
Mm.
And one of the things I would encourage any young person who's considering this profession is when you go off to get additional learning, learn leadership. Learn how to manage others, learn how
Huh.
to care for others
Yeah.
in your company and be a good team member because this
Mhm.
is a very stressful job we're in. It's a very stressful profession and it can take a lot out of you. But when you have a good team that you are developing and caring for, recognize that they're mourning and grieving and struggling as well,
Yeah.
and be a better caregiver of your employees.
Yeah. So
And
important.
this is something I didn't know how to do when my dad died. My dad was a wonderful caregiver, by the way. Everyone loved him, but I didn't have the skill set. I didn't
Mhm.
understand leadership. And until that came in my life through a lot of mistakes and a lot of wake up calls, I really didn't know how to treat our staff as well as I was caring for the families we served
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
because I
That's
thought
really
our
good.
role was really to care for the families. And I needed to take that same level of care and learn how to give it back to my staff.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so that was not a great time in my life when I realized, I mean, I got coached. I went out and found a coach
Mhm. Mhm.
and a business coach, and I said, our culture is not great. Something's happening here. really, it needs fixing, and I think I'm the problem.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Sure.
recognizing that you're the problem, I think,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
something that is very eye-opening for all of us. So
Yeah. That's a good
yeah,
discernment. And I think
yeah,
probably applies to anybody, anywhere, whether
Yeah,
or
I was
not
gonna
they're
say
leaders, you just,
neighbors and
yeah, just being compassionate with each other and caring for each other and, knowing that we're all going
Mhm.
through stuff all the time. So that's
that's
great,
right.
Right.
great advice. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
sharing that with
you're
with
so
us.
welcome.
We love to have a poem read at the end. And Lisa, you brought us a poem. Would you like to go ahead and read that for us?
I did bring you a poem. It's from chapter 10, page 159 of my book, Wake Up Calls. And I
Beautiful.
took the poem off of Kent Keith's poem called Do It Anyway, and a very similar poem written by Mother Teresa. So I wrote it for those in funeral service and death care that are struggling in their own leadership and sometimes in
Mhm.
their own personal life.
Yeah.
It's a few words to help them remain strong and find their grit. If you are faced with self doubt and you want to quit, lift yourself up anyway. If you are struggling with your education and you feel way behind, continue to learn anyway. If you want to defend yourself and your heart has been hurt, remain strong and open your heart anyway.
Mm.
If you want to succeed and you need real support, seek help anyway. If you seek to become a leader but feel you have nowhere to turn, seek others to teach you and become a leader anyway.
Hmm.
If you feel your voice has been silenced and you have something to say, speak up anyway. If you are not sure whether you will ever reach your dream, keep reaching for it anyway.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, keep reaching for it anyway. That's
Yeah,
such a great message and so important, especially for all of us doing this work and all the work that
indeed.
needs to be done these days. So, yeah. Well, it's really been a wonderful opportunity and really appreciate you and all you're doing. It's such incredible good work. And for now, we'll say goodbye and thank you again for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to meet you both,
Yeah.
and thank
Likewise.
you to
Thank you
your
so much.
listeners as well. And
Yeah.
if I can ever be support to anyone that's looking to get into the profession, please don't hesitate to email me at lisa@funeralwomenlead.org.
Yep.
And we're
That'll all be
happy
in
to
our
help
notes
you.
as well.
Yeah, happy to help them.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care.
Take care.
Uh-huh.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today. Please stick around after the credits for our afterthoughts, and it helps our numbers if you stay until the end. We want to thank my children, Nate, Vivian, Nina, and her fiance Asher, for the excellent opening song, and a special thanks to our awesome editor, Sam Zemke, who is also a guest on our podcast. You can listen to him on Season 4, Episode 5. Also, thank you to Charles Heaston, the composer of the original music you are listening to now.
And of course, thanks to you, our audience, and all of our amazing guests. Please come back next week for another great episode. Share this with your friends, family, and community. We hope you will subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Substack. Each guest's additional information will be found in the podcast notes. And of course, if you have a good end-of-life story to share, please reach out. We are always eager to hear from you. So
Wow.
interesting and such a needed. I mean, we need support for all types of folk, men
Yeah.
and women. Like,
Yeah.
let's be
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate that she's working towards finding safe spaces for women who are in this profession. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's so
So cool.
valuable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jess Wakefield, again, the same kind of
Mm-hmm.
really emphasis on how important it is. And it is a wonderful new statistic that we've heard several times now that 75% of people coming out of the
Mortuary
mortuary
school.
schools are women. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and the death doulas, as we've also noticed, mostly women. So having women be in charge in general.
Yeah, I heard that this morning. The elders talked about the women need to be there.
Yeah, it's so important and so needed right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the finding the feminine, whatever that is, in for us is masculine as well, but just finding the feminine energy just in the world, and
Touch.
because
Yeah.
there certainly are women who are in charge that are demonstrating masculinity in a toxic way still,
That's right.
which that's not the answer. It's that feminine energy, the moon energy, the caring and compassion energy that we all are in such need of right now. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, so delighted to meet another wonderful human being.
Yeah. Amen. Hallelujah. Okay. Good to see you. See you all next time. We have much more excellent programs coming.
Yes,
So definitely tune
join
in.
us, hang out.
Yeah. All right.
Adios.
Adios.